So the very big picture objective of this community effort is basically to help all of us to become a little bit more educated, a little bit more enlightened, and a little bit more engaged. And we're trying to do this totally kind of agnostic. We all want to play in the same sandbox and simply offer what hopefully is good information for all of us as a community. And so before we get going, this is the audience participation part. How many of you here are here for the first time tonight? Well, thank you so much for coming. Welcome. I also would like to know how many of you have lived here 10 years or less? That's also a big wave of hands. All right. Who is a newbie? Who has been here a year or less? Oh, no. Okay, and then how many of you here were born in Vero Beach? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Peace out. Okay, 6 out of about 180. All right, someone will need to do the math. As obviously, as you know, the topic is economic development. So by way of background, the county has engaged a consulting firm called TIP Strategies to assist with the preparation of an economic development strategic plan for the county. The plan will outline a set of strategic initiatives. 5, 1, recruit new business to the area. 2, attract and retain talent. 3, develop the local workforce. Expand existing industry and business sectors, and outline approaches to promote investment in targeted areas to enhance quality of place. And obviously, these gentlemen here are going to help us talk about this later on today. And I always get a little nervous when I do this, so I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Beverly O'Hare. I'm going to try to moderate this afternoon. I'll do the best I can. Our panelists are Mr. John Tukanich. I had called him the CEO of the county, and he goes, no, I'm just the county administrator. But you are kind of the CEO of the county. And he said, would you please separate me? I'm on antibiotics. So it's not that he doesn't like these medicines. He's just keeping a safe distance, and he's doing a lot of elbow shaking. All right. Next to John is Dr. Prashant Pillai, and if you see his name, it looks like it's tough to pronounce. And he said it's just croissant with a P. Prashant Pillai, Dr. Pillai, and I thank you for being here representing Indian River School College. Next to Dr. Pillai is Danny Markford, and Danny is Piper Aircraft CFO. So thank you for being here. And last but certainly not least, to the left of Danny is Mr. Keith Kite. And Keith is here representing the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce. He's the Economic Development and Government Relations Chair. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. And I hope we'll still like each other at the end. I'm just kidding. All right. In addition to our panel, we're really flattered how many community leaders have decided to come join us this evening. And I had said to Arvina, if we had time for everyone to be able to stand up and introduce themselves and share with us what they're doing for the community, that would be ideal. But we don't have that much time. But I would like to but I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce you to a few community leaders. And I'm going to start up with Mr. Moses, John Moses, and he is the CEO and the artistic director of Riverside Theater. So thanks to John, we have this space. And John, I know you're busy and most times you can't make it, so I'm appreciative you're here tonight. So the theater has made the space available to us pro bono, which is really wonderful. And the staff works really hard to get this ready for us. And so we're most appreciative. I've heard John many times say how he would love for the theater to be the living room of the community. So John, you've got a big living room tonight filled with lots of people, which is wonderful. And And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the bar is open. That's kind of the revenue piece tonight for the theater, and so you don't have to be embarrassed to get up during the program if you feel like you need to stop by the bar. So, John, again, we appreciate your hospitality, and thank you so much for having Let's Talk Mirror here at the theater. Since we're talking about community development, I should tell you real quick the kind of add-on this theater does provide to the community. They employ about 100 people full-time. They earn about $2.5 million collectively, and most of these individuals live here in the county. So hence, that money stays here in the community. And the theater earns roughly $12 million in revenues. It's 52 years old. John's working really hard to make it 48 more years to go to 100.
Nice.
And he is working hard to try to make productive changes as the theater and many organizations here in the community try to move forward to go to the next level. So speaking of the next level, I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Brady Roberts. He is the CEO of the museum. Brady, many months ago, I knew the gentleman that decided to embark to take center of the arts to the museum status. And so it's actually extraordinarily difficult for an arts arts institute to actually be elevated to the status of museum. So that was a huge lift for them many years ago. So it's really quite extraordinary to have a museum here in this rather small community, to your credit. And I know you're also embarking on lots of plans to make things bigger and better for the museum as well. I'd also like to introduce to you Matt Tanner. Thank you. Matt is the executive director of United Against Poverty. And United Against Poverty obviously is also a critical anchor institution here in Indian River County because they try to develop employment, and they try to seek out job growth and find better paying jobs for the people that are willing to take their step classes. And they also provide the ability to buy groceries at a discounted price. So they do lots of good things. So thank you for coming. Also, I would like to give a shout out to our politicians that are here tonight. I saw Laura Moss earlier, County Commissioner, and I saw 4 city council mayors. Mayor Coutinho, hello, it's Tracy and Jack Carroll. Tracy used to be on the city council, and now she's handing the baton to her husband. And Mr. Voss is here. Thank you for coming. And Linda Moore is here. Oh, hi, Linda. All right, so thank you so much for coming. Obviously, we want to talk tonight about moving forward, but I want to real quick share with you a fun fact about Vero. So Vero was incorporated in 1919. It was not called Vero Beach back then, so it was incorporated as Vero. And not until 6 years later, in 1925, it was renamed to Vero Beach. So that's my fun fact about our little town. And the person that made the pitch to add the word beach, his name was Waldo Sexton. And he went to whomever the council or commission was at the time. He said, if you added the word beach, this would be much more easy for me to market because I want to. So speaking of economic development, right, he started this 100 years ago. And he said, you would make this a lot easier for me because I want to bring Northerners down here to play golf. And there's a great fold-out, trifold that he made back then with a golfer on the front to try to bring people down to Vero. And I want to share one more person that was kind of in that same time frame. In 1922, an Arthur McKee bought a lot of land off US 1 because he loved trees and plants and flowers, and he found this piece of property that they described just as a huge jungle in 1922. And his what he left to this town also is now iconic. He left McKee Gardens. And I would like to let you know that Marion Lotta DeVogel is his great granddaughter, and she's here tonight. And husband had moved back to Vero Beach about 7 years ago, and it's a small world. Her and my husband were in the same class at St. Edward's, and she said I think there were like 8 or 9 kids in the class. So we won't tell what year. And then, last but certainly not least, I understand there's also press here in this room tonight. And so this is a community event. And so for the press, should you wish to ask questions, these gentlemen will be available after our program, and they'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And hopefully by around 6:35, 6:40, we hope to have a good 20 minutes for Q&A coming from all of you. All right, so now, without further ado, John, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take this microphone because I cannot, it's hard for me to stand still for very long. So, John, in one word, how would you describe Indian River County's economic potential right now?
I would say limitless.
Why?
I think because, we have the opportunity with this plan to craft a economic development strategy that complements and embraces our community. And it would be based on community input. It's been heavily involved, the public, our stakeholders. So I just think there's so many community amenities that are available. I mean, you mentioned, the museum, the arts that are here, that's unique for a small community. We have great transportation access. And there's just so many opportunities that exist. And we have a unique and small town character feel. And I think that others want to be here. So we should demand that what we want and nothing less.
I love that. Go ahead, hang on to the microphone. Here's the next one. What's the one thing about a local economy that would surprise people in this room?
So the one thing that I thought about this, and one thing that, we are celebrating our centennial, as you noted.
Right.
And the county's roots are clearly in agriculture. And I often hear people say agriculture is dead. I'm not sure that's the case, because when I look at the census of 2022, from the 5 years from 2017 to 2022, we see a 9% increase in the number of farms that have come to Indian River County. Or the difference is about 71% of those farms are less than 50 acres. So it's changing. They're smaller, but the total, I be honest, I've been immersed in that budget that we call that the county has to operate every year. So, but the total market value has been up. Let's see here, about 17 to 17%, 17 to 7% between the overall and per farm. So, I mean, when you see the market value of the products being sold up, and the fact that we have 9% increase. Now, obviously, there's a little bit, they're smaller, but I think that represents opportunities. I think of Spirit of Sebastian, they're developing with agri-hoods. So I think, I don't think agriculture is dead here. We're deeply tied to that. And I still think there's many opportunities, whether it's research and development, whatever the case may be. And we've got 3 packing houses, and then we see IMG, who's still looking to expand and invest money in our community. So that's one of the things I hear. I have to say, I don't really agree with that.
Well, you're in charge, so we'll go with that.
That's just good.
All right, this is a long question, so here we go. Your team is embarking on a plan to create a blueprint for economic development for the next 10 years, a framework to recruit new businesses to the area, attract and retain talent, develop the local workforce, and expand existing industry and business sectors, all with the goal of enhancing Indian River's quality of place. Can you tell us a bit about the timeline and how many people who were unable to attend the May workshops can still share their input?
So, when you say my team, I guess that would mean the entire community, because we certainly invited and we have held a series of workshops. Literally, one of the things since I got here, we endeavored to hold workshops, from the south, central, and north in each area. Always offer a virtual option for those that are residents that are living not here right now. And so I would say it was a community effort, not a team effort, but our team did work with TIP strategies. And then we also had the Economic Development Committee that the county has that served as a key stakeholder. We did hold the May workshops, I think at like the 12th to the 14th of May. And there will be an opportunity when they come back with a draft plan for, people to comment on that plan. And I would like to acknowledge, because some of the team members you're talking about is Chris Balter, our Director of Planning and Development Services. And we also have Logan Reed. So it's not we'll get a draft back. We're going to obviously present it, or the consultants will present it, and we'll solicit comments. Because I think the success of the economic development plan is, again, us being able to identify, what industries, what businesses do we want to attract that complement, not overtake us, but complement our economy, and more importantly, create a diverse economy that will bring back our younger generation. So when they go off to college, or they, so that when they go get that degree, or they go serve in the military, or they go to trade school, they stay here. Because that's one of the things, I've been here 2+ years now, and I hope our family's here, and my kids are living here. So I think it's a beautiful community. We have so many amenities, from natural resources, arts to culture, and I just think we have everything that the younger population and young families want. We do intergenerational programming from seniors all the way down to babies, and it's unique, and we have an amazing quality of life, and we deserve to have businesses and industries that support us and complement what we want.
Well, of course, I'm a big fan of young people coming back. So 2 of my 3 children are back. And I think we have like 5 people here that are under 30. I told the average to age down.
I know one.
Or 6. So, but some of these young people I know that went to school with my kids, they just met me tonight and they said, it's so nice to be back. It feels good. And I know a couple of these young people that went to school with my son, and they decided to come to Vero Beach. So we just need to keep it going, right?
And it's not like I'll say this. Everybody knows I came from Brevard County, worked for the city of Cocoa. But when I was in Brevard, early on, there was an initiative called Brevard Tomorrow. They were facing the same issue. And so as a community, if we come together, we can create a diverse economy that brings value-added jobs, that brings our young people back. It can happen. And we don't have to let growth come to the point where it overtakes us or dominates us. We can do it in a smart manner. I really believe that. But I think it all starts with each of you being involved in sharing your input and providing your opinions and sentiments to our elected officials and to the administration.
So I take it you believe we can do quote unquote smart growth.
Smart, responsible. I know some people say, "Oh, smart growth," but and I've been asked, "Well, what's good growth versus bad growth?" Well, is there? I would say, I'll use an example. When I got to the city of Cocoa had seen growth in 14 years. They hadn't had a subdivision developed in 14 years. That's Florida community in Brevard County. So they were clamoring for growth. So there was a little bit of desire. But here, people want to be here. This is a unique place, and people want to come. We have industrial site selectors looking at the place. We have other, commercial people. We have developers. And I think what really what I would call responsible growth is, 1, growth that pays for itself. 2, growth that does not, compromise what we have. It complements what we have. And that starts with having quality standards in terms of the development standards that we have. We just, since 20 23 years, was it, Chris? 2008, I think, was the last time we evaluated our comprehensive plan. So we just did that last year, you know, and we're going to be adopting comprehensive plan amendments to guide growth for the next couple of years. And what we need to do is we need to adopt standards following that will raise the level that looks like the existing character of our community. You know, who wants to be able to, hey, Bob, reach out the window 5 feet away, 10 feet away. Can you give me a bar of soap? I'm out. You know, I mean, nobody does. I mean, so I think people come here for a reason. And I don't think it's for these small lot subdivisions. And so I think, you know, we've had some conversations on the dais with the commission, and the community has spoken, and they want to retain the character of our community. And that's what our job should be we should be doing.
I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'll go to Mr. Kite. Obviously, this is not any new news. Housing costs are obviously up, right? And we are learning that we're pricing out teachers, nurses, firefighters, young families. And it's got to be part of the narrative and what you're looking at. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on that big topic of workforce really sustainability.
Yeah, I think developing housing for our workforce is important, and I'm going to be quick. I see the sign. So, but I will tell you though, at Resi Club, out of 384 metropolitan areas, Indian River County had the 5th steepest decline in housing prices. I think if you look at the market, there's some realtors here in certain zip codes, houses that are staying on the market longer. We're seeing price reductions. And so I think we're seeing a softening of the market. The building permit activity is not as robust as it has been in the past. And so, but even though the prices are coming down for a family of 4, I think you've got to make about $120,000 to be able to afford some of these houses. So, I mean, you got to have a dual income family. A single income family is very rare nowadays. And so what we need to do, and I think what the county can do, we have things like, we provide impact fee, at a lower rate for affordable workforce housing. We're looking at county land, what could be used for potentially a partner with private sector to offset the cost if you increase the equity and the value of their project, and then you can basically negotiate what I would say that it's a mixed income project. I think there's opportunities. We have an amazing affordable housing advisory committee. They're looking at various solutions. There's got to be some things in this that I know that we do.
That's okay.
We do a lot. The county is working on it. I know that. And there's no single bullet. And I will say this. Every county in America, for the most part, is struggling with this issue that's on the verge, that's dealing with growth, is how do you accommodate the young family or that single mother that has 2 kids.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the survival budget in Indian River County for a young family with 2 children, let's say a toddler and preschool, is $85,500. So and survival means you just make it. If you have an event like a flat tire and you need a new tire for $200, that already is a dilemma. So to your point, so $120,000 is a tall order for many. If you guys want to know all the statistics about that in the county, Matt Tanner is your man. Afterwards. Nice pun, huh? No, just kidding. Mr. Kite, thank you for coming. His lovely wife is here. I know your sons work with you, so all is good in the Kite household, I hope. So Keith is the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce Economic Development and Government Relations Chair, and he has been an active participant here in our community to try to engage everyone in community development. So Keith, I'm going to ask you the same couple of questions I asked John first. In one word, how would you describe Indian River County's economic potential right now?
Sustained.
Okay, and why?
I was asked really economic development and government relations and these boring topics. So thank you very much, Fairfield, for having me. Thank you all more for even listening. I hope you can stay asleep through some of it. We'll try and get it right for you. You know, the question was basically if a major employer were to come here, you know, what would I say to them? Brag about or warn about. And, I thought about the question. And, I said, you know, a major company is just not going to show up here. They have vast, huge resources. They have all kinds of data now. Probably with AI, they have more data than they ever know. They know exactly where they need to be. They know what the education is, the workforce, the population, the housing, the data items that John spoke about. So from an economic development, you know, perspective, and playing off of John's words, I believe that we kind of should act maybe more like the citrus industry. And we really have to plant some seeds for growth and think about this growth that John's talking about. And I like to call it sustainable growth instead of smart growth or no growth or super growth. Or let's just think about how we can survive in this community and how we want to do it. And by planting those seeds, we can organically grow our community. Our healthcare industry. We all need healthcare because if you're my age, you need it. And if you're 30, you need it. And if you're a kid, you know, a workforce person and you're a teacher, you have children, you need healthcare. We have a tremendous healthcare industry with the bringing in a Cleveland Clinic. By organically, I mean, let's ask Cleveland Clinic. What do you need? What does this community need? Let's look at that kind of development that will bring high-paying jobs, smart jobs. And I carry this same theme all the time through the aviation industry. With Danny here, a good friend of mine, willing to come today, the CFO of Piper. And he could talk about the workforce struggles that we have in this community. In my industry, hospitality and working here, 40% of my workforce does not live in this community. They drive here. And that paycheck is not staying here. And that's hurting your community that I live in. I have a son, I have a nephew that work here. They have high-paying, sustainable jobs, entrepreneurial jobs. That's servicing the service industry. Agri-science is another industry. So think about our sustainable growth, what we grew up in, planting seeds of really what you want to be. And let's leverage the resources we have. Exactly like John had said. I saw the hands of people that moved here. I'm a fourth generation Floridian in the 50s. I was born in Florida. There were under 3 million people. We're 22 million people now. So I graduated building construction, Florida. So I watched 40 years of growth here. I moved here because this is such an opportunity to have cities and villages and not seas of houses. People talk about the amount of population that we're going to have. We're at 174,000 people now, according to the state of Florida Economic Development Research. It studies all this stuff. There's 1,000 other reports that'll give you the real numbers. They estimate in 2045, we'll be at about 203,000. So 200 to 210,000. About 30,000 people. That's about 8,000 rooftops. So you got to ask yourself, if we want workforce, when we talk workforce, by the way, as Maribel and John said, we're talking about our school teachers, our nurses, our police, our firemen, the entry-level jobs of our industries, and the growth from there. So that's, as a single person, 60 to 65,000 in this county. For a family of 4, 120 to 130,000. Estimated by the financial industry. We all know what you need about 30% of that for your housing, mortgage. Everybody knows all these numbers. So you can do the math and figure out what it costs a month to have a house here. So in 40% of my people leaving, other industries leaving, the opposite has happened. It's very hard for the hospital to attract people to come at the right level of drug. So we struggle with our healthcare times. So when we talk about places like the mall or dilapidated citrus packing houses along US 1, or other places that are blighted in our community without going past the urban service line. All of you are probably familiar with the downtown initiative last year that failed at 65% because everybody was scared of 3,000 new homes or whatever the massive growth that was going to be in downtown. It's 8,000 more homes over 20 years. 3,000 people aren't going to show up in downtown next year when we vote. It takes years. So think about these things when John says, we do, you as the community. I've been a part of this community since 1995. I love it here. You really have to think about changing a few simple things to get it right and still enjoy a lifestyle. You do not want to become a bedroom community of houses where you have lost your workforce, because then you're really not going to have health care. You're really going to struggle for somebody at a middle manager at Publix, the managers, the CVSs, et cetera. And that it doesn't even include the opportunities that we have, as John said, in agriculture. These smaller farms are there with all kinds of scientific knowledge now, going on all over this county. If you go out to aquaculture in Fellsmere, and all sorts of other organic growth, all that sort of industry. There are so many ones that we can just see. So I would like, and took this volunteer position to try and get the community to understand we do not have to put up every time someone gets off I-95 a stop sign that we're going to have no more growth. If you leave the mall, it is 30 miles to Yeehaw Junction. We can stay inside this urban service line. We can figure out this housing problem. We can bring high quality paying jobs to this community. We have neighbors. St. Lucie County is eating our lunch in technology, in warehousing, and other things. That's fine. Let them do it. Let them build their RMSA, which is Stewart to basically the south of our line, part of Bavard. 1.2 million people, according to the U.S. Census Bureau of 2020. We're 174,000 in this county. We're a small part of this big picture. Let's grab the key people that would help Piper and give our kids a high-paying job. Let our teachers find a place to live. And lastly, I'd just like to say, find that healthy, creative path of really what you're thinking about doing when you say yes or no. Oh, I'm retired, I don't want to live here. Or I'm 18 and I need a job and I'd like to live here. And put yourself back. I try and do it. I was fortunate enough to have my family join me. Find a way to think at the time you were at the age, and if you were living in this community, what you would like to see. And that's the workforce people that's going on in the minds that we're trying to get here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your thoughtfulness, and I'm sure probably somebody will have some questions later on. Do you still want to take a couple minutes to talk about the impact of our nonprofits here in the county?
I think it's a perfect example of the quality of life. It's one of the great economic drivers of this community. The statistics, over 2,000 people, $84 million, and let me make sure I get these right. So, excuse me just a second.
Actually, I've got a couple of them.
Okay.
So,
The important thing about the nonprofit community from up to really our cultural community that we're sitting in, our museum, our McGee, our ecotourism, these are all lifestyle items that are an economic engine to us and drive this lifestyle that we enjoy. So it in itself, and the amount of philanthropy in this county is so important to maintaining that lifestyle and give us that organic growth of ability to allow the workforce that is supporting all of this to stay in the county and enjoy it with us.
Thank you. So the Indian River County is ranked the 8th most charitable or generous county in the state of Florida. So we have 67 counties. So we're number 8 in terms of kindness. And so collectively, all the nonprofits generate about all in $384 million and about $94 million in wages. That includes a nonprofit like the theater that the 12 million of revenue, because this theater, believe it or not, is the largest small town nonprofit theater in the state of Florida. But everyone here that's in business is trying to figure out how to make it more sustainable. How can we encourage our young people to come back and do affordable housing, right? And unless you rent with mom and dad, which is not a bad gig, by the way. But collectively, obviously, it's all part of this community. And so I really appreciate your comments. And so I'm ready to, Danny, are we ready?
Sure.
We're both saying that we were like nervous wrecks before this started. And I said, I already sweated through my sweat, my shirt and my jacket. And he goes, that's why I didn't wear one. So Danny Markford is the CFO for Piper Aircraft. And Danny, let me start off by asking you the same question I asked John and Keith. In one word, how would you describe Indian River County's economic potential right now?
Well, first of all, these guys answered the question very well. I don't know how they can top it.
So, yeah.
I'm an accountant, but I don't have the gift of gab. But, Indian River is full of economic potential. It is. And the reason why is because it's an open slate. We have an opportunity here to attract the businesses that we want to have here that complement what we have and don't upset the community that we have all grown to love. But we as a community have to decide whether or not we're going to create the environment to attract and keep those kind of employees that will work in those businesses that we want here. We struggle every day with affordable housing and just the retirement lifestyle. I guess we know that the young folks want to live in Melbourne and Port St. Lucie. They don't want to live in Vero. And I get it. When I was young, I didn't want to live here either, but I'm a small town guy. I've been here my whole life. I love it here. And it's just different strokes for different folks, but I don't think, I'm the norm back, or I was the norm back then. The young folks want to be somewhere other than here.
So, ballpark, how many of the Piper employees do you think commute into Indian River County?
Well, about a third of our employees live in the surrounding counties. We have over 1,500 employees. We have 155, 160 open positions that we're trying to fill. About a third of our employees live in the surrounding counties.
So actually, this is a good question for you. So we just talked about workers. So we know you need skilled workers, machinists, engineers, technicians, etc. So it sounds like you're not finding the talent here locally if you have that many positions open. So does that mean you're going to try to solicit them to come in, i.e. import? Or since you have Dr. Pilley next to you, what do you think about maybe what our schools might be able to do or colleges to help you and other organizations here to find suitable employees?
Yeah, so like I said, we're finding skilled labor for the factory or professional office staff is difficult in this area. They're not just sitting around waiting for us to have a position open. And because there's not a lot of that type of industry here, we're constantly competing with Port St. Lucie or Brevard County, the Space Coast, for, you know, aerospace engineers, machinists, factory workers, you name it. We're constantly playing, you know, bounce around with the employees where they can go to get the next signing bonus. It's difficult. The draw that those other places have is, you know, more of a conducive lifestyle for the younger folks that we're trying to attract. We spend a lot of money trying to recruit and retain and relocate the staff, the talent, the skilled talent that we're looking for from all over the country. We try and bring them here. As a community, we need to figure out how to get them to live here in town and not go up to Melbourne or St. Lucie.
Well, I know your organization isn't the only one that has that dilemma. We had Dr. Rothman here a couple of months ago, and he said the hospital employs 2,400 people, and 1,000 of them come in every day and commute in from other counties. So so hence there are many organizations here in the county that are kind of grappling with the same dilemma.
Right, and I guess the second part of that was working with the schools. We do work with the high schools. We've actually started an extern program. I think we've signed on with gosh, I can't think of the school, but anyways, their kids will come on site. It's for 16 years and older. They come out to the factory. We've worked up a little training program for them to kind of get a feel, get their feet wet, kind of see what a career doing machine work would be like. The schools invite us out occasionally, and every time we're invited, we go. Our engineers will go talk to the students, this kind of stuff. But we also work with Indian River State College. They have a like an intro to machining program that they set up, what was it, a year or two ago? But it's great, and it gives people a feel for, again, what they can expect in an environment like ours or in a machine shop. You know, we have a problem with that. We'll hire people who think they want to come work at Piper, and they find out it's really hard work and they have to stand up all day. And so, you know, that churn is costly, right? I'd rather have them find out early on that it's not for them as opposed to us going through the hiring process, because we spend a fortune bringing people on. But, you know, it'd be great if we could take it to the next level where the school would create certification programs for like NC programmers or A&P mechanics, sheet metal mechanics. These are all highly skilled positions that pay well, and there's a huge demand for it. We cannot find these people. We go all over the state to other schools who actually train these folks and try to bring them here. If we could do that locally, keep our kids here, and attract kids from other places that want to go to school, I think that'd be a wonderful thing. But again, it goes beyond the training and the job. They have to be able to afford to live here.
So if you had to guess, do you think Piper will still be here in 20 years from now?
Absolutely.
All right, love that. Last but not least, I'd like you to meet Dr. Prashant Pillai, and he is here from Indian River State College, and so we would love to hear what programs that you are adding or changing, just as Dan alluded to match where our economy is headed, and not necessarily where it's been.
I'm glad I was the last one, because I got to hear the conversation. That it's exciting, because one of the things that we've always worked at Indian River is to keep our students local, and to hear this conversation of keeping our students here, because once they study here, they stay here, and they contribute to our economy, and it's a proven model. And what we are looking at, we are looking at creating newer programs that are short-term, because you know, education, the landscape of education has changed. You know, if you look at the newer generation, I got 4 kids, and sometimes I'm like, are they my kids? But
Lying.
yeah, and you know, I have a wide range from a 23-year-old to two 8-year-olds. So, yeah. So,
So you want to go drink after this?
what I'm getting at is they're not looking at, you know, the traditional college that I grew up is the 4 years, and then you have to go to your master's, and you know, then you have to get this degree, and you have to get into a professional, you know, and get professional education. That's not what a lot of these younger students are looking for. They want something quick. They want something that's scalable. It's not just they want to get something and end with it. They want to see that there's a ladder. That, you know, I can go get an industry certificate, and then I can take that, and a few years later, I can, or while I'm working, get a degree. So what we are doing is, ever since the pandemic, we had to pivot because we've seen a change in student behavior. So what we are doing is we're trying to keep our students local here. So we're creating programming, like we're creating a lot of non-credit programming, machinist program. Well, you know, we are looking at a welding or HVAC, or we have apprenticeship programs. We have created apprenticeship programs in plumbing and electrician and carpentry and things that, and some of these programs fill our plumbing program, electrician program is absolutely full right now because it's hard. You know, these are some of the trades that we don't have, like the electrician and the HVAC technicians. And by God, they make 6 figures when they get outside and when they start working. So these are not low-paying jobs. Another thing that we're also looking at in the state of Florida is because we look at something called as a high skill, high wage. So we're constantly looking at programs that are high skill, high wage. We always monitor on an annual basis all our programs to see that they meet this high skill, high wage criteria. Because if they don't meet this high skill, high wage criteria, we're looking at ways that either we create a ladder, or that if they're not worth it, we decide to end those programs. So we're constantly, especially in workforce side, we're constantly looking and evaluating our programs. So we have a lot of new programs. If you've never come and taken a tour, I would highly encourage you to come and visit Indian River State College. You'll be surprised at some of the things that we have to offer. I call it a little jewel that's on the Treasure Coast, because a lot of people think at heart we're a community college, but some of the programs we have cybersecurity. We have started a new course in AI, you know. So we're trying to meet the needs of our students wherever they are. If they want to be a welder, yes. We were the first state college that came up with an 18 credit certificate in EV maintenance. There was none in the state, and we're seeing an increase in electric vehicles. Nice to have electric vehicles. What happens when they start going back? You need somebody, a technician, to take care of them. So we were the first ones to create that 18 credit certificate because we saw a need. So we're constantly talking to industry partners, and we're looking at what can we create. Does a student want a degree program? We got degree programs for you. If somebody wants a non-credit program, we got a non-credit program for you. But the thing about it is it doesn't go wasted. You can take that non-credit program and you can ladder up. So we, again, created a 2-year program. It's called the Associate of Science in Supervision and Management for Industry. So anybody who comes in and say, hey, I got this certificate, it's a valid industry certificate, you'll say, okay, it's valid, it's an industry certificate, it's nationally recognized, I can give you up to 27 credits towards your AS degree in supervision and management, and that can ladder up to a bachelor. So what we're doing is, one of the big things that we've done is created on-ramps and off-ramps for our students. This is not your traditional education model where, you know, you come and get your 4 years and then go on. We're trying to give them as many opportunities, because what happens when you give those opportunities and then break these opportunities piece by piece, it's more palatable for the students. And they're more willing to stay in the community. Fun fact, right? 720 students high school students from Vero Beach are in our promise school. I mean, 720 students are going to stay here. Doesn't matter, they're going to stay with mom and dad. Mom and dad, you're saving money. That's fine, right? But it's a huge save.
What did you call that program again?
The Promise Program.
Promise.
And I'm going to talk to her.
Okay, good.
So this goes back, like I said, we have lessons to learn. Sometimes higher education is entrenched. We have our own thought process. We're all academics and we like to do things a certain way. But Promise really taught us a lesson to pivot. And we wanted to keep our students in. I mean, you've seen it, national trends, where enrollments have gone down. Nobody wants to go to school. And you're seeing this in the media, education is not that worth its while. Nobody wants to go to school. We're trying to change the narrative. So we came up with the Promise program, thanks to our foundation and Annabelle, who's in this room, we've been able to raise money and any high school student from any for high school, charter school, private school, and homeschool from a 4-county area can go to IRSE for the first 2 years, absolutely free, no income verification. And there's a method to that madness. We want our students to be local. We want them to study here. We want to experience it. And I told that to my daughter, who decided at one point she was going to go to UF, but she decided to stay back. And she said after last semester, she said, I'm going to stay back. I'm going to University College. I said, why? And I said, you know what, Dad, if I need to go party, I'll go on the weekend with my friends at UF. I said, that's a smart kid. Thank you.
That's just a rumor. They don't party at UF.
I know. But you see, that's what kids are thinking about. There are avenues for them to go and have fun. We are small class sizes. We have qualified faculty. We vet our faculty. We credential our faculty. And our workforce people come from workforce. Those who teach HVAC come from the HVAC industry. Those who teach welding come from the welding industry. We doubled our nursing program because we knew that there was a need for a nursing program, and we thought that when we doubled up, because we had a wait list, we doubled our nursing program. We still have a wait list. So it's the same thing. What has happened with Indian River State College is as we increase, the wait list increases. So we are constantly looking for ways to increase, but we're a state organization, and you know how state organizations are. They run a little slow because the state doesn't give us the funds in large tranches. They give us in bits and pieces. So when the state gives us $1 million here, then we try to do something else. And if it was not for our foundation, I don't know, because we are very thankful. So I'll give you another fun fact. And this is from Florida Tax Watch. I'm a market researcher, so I'm a big guy on numbers and statistics. For every Florida Tax Watch came up with a report and said, for every dollar that's invested in Indian River State College, it puts out $6.69. That's your return on investment. I'm always asking the question coming from industry, what's my ROI when I put a program? What's my ROI when I do this? The ROI is there. Another fun fact, Helios Foundation, September 2024, a report came out that, and this is related to Indian River County, they do this statistical analysis, and they have this metropolitan statistical area, as they call it. And Vero Beach and Sebastian, if a student in the metropolitan area of Vero Beach, Sebastian, in River County, gets a bachelor's degree, their lifetime earning increases to $1.5 million. And I'll tell you what the fun fact is. It's the highest in the state of Florida. You can go check it. It's the highest in the state of Florida. So you have opportunities boundless, and I think we need to let our kids know that. By keeping them here, that's what we're going to do. We're going to tell them, stay here, live here, let's find you work here. And I'm so glad the gentlemen, everybody had that same message, because I was like, I hope I'm not black sheep, but I just.
Thank you. So, obviously, the high school feeds the students, right? So the local high schools here have had now the highest graduation rates that we've ever seen here in the county. But here's an interesting statistic I came across, that only 33% of the population, 25 years and older, have a college degree. So from your vantage point, do you think it's more advantageous to maybe to steer some young people more towards developing a skill set and leaving with a 2-year degree? Or do you feel like there's more momentum to encourage young people for a 4-year degree because you've done the return on investment and you know they have a better outcome long term?
I don't want to box our students into a set pattern. I want to give them all the opportunity where they can, and that's where we created those on-ramps and off-ramps. Yes, and ultimately we see, and this like I said, this is a very unique generation that we're dealing with. And when I talk to them about a bachelor's, the first thing I hear is a sigh. Oh my God, 4 years. Yes.
Yes.
And I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, again, going back, I have a 23-year-old son. I'm struggling to get him, he's finished his bachelor's and trying to get him in the program. He wanted to be a doctor. And then he suddenly decided he doesn't want to go to med school, only for the fact because it's 6 years.
Yeah.
That's the only criteria, is time.
Time.
So when we're talking to kids, and that's what I'm seeing a lot, and thank goodness I'm learning from my kids, I'm looking at these, and as I interact with students, time has become a critical factor. A lot of the younger generation does not want to sit and, for them 4 years, a bachelor's degree is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get you. I'm going to give it to you in pieces. So you learn, I get you on the hook, you come on in, you learn a skill. Oh, that's interesting. And a lot of them come in. I'll give you a classic example. Everybody I talk to wants to be a nurse. But at the first sign of blood, they're fainting right there. Or they're going up. And so you see that, and to your point, everybody wants to be a welder, but then they go into the welding class and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know I had to deal with fire. I didn't know I had to stand all day. I didn't know this was such a, tedious job. And no, so what we are doing is we're exposing students right up front. We are showing them bits and pieces, and by doing that, students are learning, and thanks to the school partners, a lot of that is happening. We're working very closely with them, and they're coming and showing their students what Indian River has to offer. And by doing that, what students are learning is, I like this, or I don't like that, or this is a good career. I've never thought about this career. We had a young lady who became an auto mechanic. First generation. She became an auto mechanic. She said, we have never become. Started her own, shop, and she's thriving. And I can tell you stories after stories where students have come in not knowing what they want to do, but when they saw something, they fell for it, and they're doing it, and they're doing really well, and they're making an impact in the community. I don't live in Vero. I would love to move to Vero. I've been looking, but
I think there's some realtors
It becomes so saturated. We moved to Port St. Lucie, 20-some odd years ago, and it was beautiful. And now I can't get out of it. And I have, rush hour, and anyway, I digress. But What I would, for me, I want our kids to be there. I'm a parent, I'm selfish. I want my kids to grow in their community. I want my kids to contribute to the community because the value that brings to the community is paramount. And we're seeing that, and we're seeing that numbers at Indian River State College. And we're doing everything to keep our students here because by doing that, it not only impacts their education, they're getting quality education, but they're also impacting that community. So again, going back to your question, yes, I would love for them to get their bachelor's and their master's and go on, but I want to create a pathway where I make them feel comfortable so that, and that's where we're creating all these pathways where we can see that a student, even if they come with as long as they come with an industry certificate, we can take that and use it and see how we can move them forward in their education. And we see a lot of them because some of them, we get welders and HVAC technicians who were young and they went in and they, after 15 years or when they're close to retirement, they're like, oh, I want to go back to school and what do I need? Because I want to be a manager now in my shop or I want to run this. And the old traditional way would say, oh, now you have to do those 2 years all over again. You have to do your English and your math and they're like, well, I've done it. Why do I have to do it? But so we're creating pathways by creating degrees where we can give them credit. And so that way they can only do the half and then they move on. And, better paying because a bachelor degree pays well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all your comments. Lori, rumor has it you have a very important announcement to make.
Last call, don't be shy, head up to the vote.
Last call.
Thank you.
Lori is the general manager of the theater, and thanks to her, she pulls her tribe together to make all this work for us when we do this here. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So before we would like to invite all of you to ask questions to our panel. John, I thought I would conclude our Q&A up here. I'll ask you just one last question, because you're the economic development guy. What's one myth about our local economy that you want to bust right now?
I'm just going to go back to my earlier answer. The agriculture is dead in Indian River County. I mean, I think there's an abundant number of opportunities. I mean, Keith touched on some of them. But I think the other thing is I just, we have the opportunity. I mean, I've heard the comment. Listen, when I was considering moving here, we bought property in 2020, several years before this job. I had my gastroenterologist say, "What? You're going to go to Zero Beach?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, I can't go to my kids. I had a job offer at City, but I'm like, we love it there. I mean, and this is a wonderful place to live, and this community offers so much. And working." I mentioned something else I thought was important, economic development before, and I looked out into the audience. I saw somebody who needed to say something because, while we have a very good, I believe the number of great parks, recreation program, I think we have for arts, we have, access to, the manufacturing community, it is growing to extent. But, one of the things that helps besides our great school system and the Indian River State College, and I think she left, but the GO line. I mean, we have an amazing, public transit system. So when Dr. Phil's talking about going to get to down to Indian River State College, I think it's 45 minutes. Somebody can get on a bus here free and go down to the college and take their classes.
We have a campus here.
Well, we do have a campus here too. Yes, I know. I've been there. But I think the Advanced Center for Manufacturing is down in Fort Pierce. So it's just the fact that we have a very good transportation system. I think, public transit is also good. But I think I'm just going to go back. Agriculture's not dead. And I think the opportunities are limitless. We get to define what we want to be and how we want to grow.
So I'll start off the Q&A. How's that? From back here. And then whoever's brave enough that wants to ask a question, I'll come to you with the microphone, put you on the spot. So we had a local business local business owner that couldn't be here tonight, and he asked us to ask you collectively. He said, I'd love to buy another business here in town. But he says he's very frustrated because he can't get the permitting done. And now he's saying, you know what, I may need to move either to another county or to another state. So I was wondering what you may say to him and all of the other people that have been trying to get permitting to expand their businesses.
So I think this is a great question for Dr. Brilli. So, well, I would like to say, I mean, and I did bring some stuff, but I will say this, you know, when I got here, I've been here about 2 years now, and we did assess the organization. One of the things I realized quickly, the community valued its natural resources. I mean, they literally went and voted, this community voted, you know, for $50 million of bonds. But yet we had a division that was buried under public works. And I said that needed to be elevated to demonstrate the same level of interest that the public has and the desire to protect its natural resources. We created a natural resources department. And then this last year, probably one of my bigger things is we sat and we talked about, because there's a business in mind, and they were frustrated by the fire code versus the building code. And it's like, well, wait a minute, they're in the same. And we went and had a presentation by the business owner, and they were, these two departments, divisions are in the same building and in the same work area, but they're not talking together. They were siloed, they were fragmented. And so we created the Building Facility and Services Department to kind of force that integration. So what I will say is we do now, and it has to start somewhere. You know, since October of last year, we have been with our permitting system, and listen, if somebody asks what improvement you want to make this year and where you started it, is develop an integrated development review and permitting system that works for the customer and also the public. I will tell you this, though, I do want to say something.
Yes.
We now do monthly reports where we look at permit activity, and we look at, 1 through 30, 31 through 60, 61 through 90, and then we look at KPIs and how many days each department's taking. We also implemented a customer service satisfaction. And we encourage them, to take it so we can monitor how well we're doing and being more responsive. And that business owner, I'll probably want to talk to you so I can talk to them, because I do think we have improved in the building permitting side. I think we're improving in the planning side, but we have had some challenges with being, to be very direct. I say, well, I'll be honest. But no, we do be very direct. On our public works infrastructure base, we're having some challenges hiring some people, and it's kind of pushing the workload. So we are working on that. But the other thing is we do have a task force together for that integrating. I think we have 21 responses from vendors for that program.
We'll definitely introduce you. Please go ahead.
So in fairness, this may be more of a question for the civil engineer types and the city planner types. But what about the traffic flow as we develop? Can you talk to that a little bit, please?
It's again, I guess, so let me say, I thought about this because there was one of the draft questions was about the impact on traffic. And, sometimes I tell people it all depends on your perspective. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, and I lived in Orlando. And local people know how to get around those communities. Well, one of the things that both of those communities have that we have that's unique, that's totally different from, St. Lucie County, and I worked there 3 years, and in Brevard, I lived there 20 years, is we have an amazing grid network. And that network enables us to distribute our trips throughout the community. So if we can make investments on principal for our, arterials and collectors, then we can minimize some of the traffic. I think the Oslo Road interchange, that's gonna, kind of relieve some of the congestion on State Road 60. But you can go north, south, east, west, and you can take several different routes. Now, think about living in Vieira. You don't do that. Beautiful community, but they had to rethink the way they developed it. Literally, the Vieira company went back and said, wait a minute, something's wrong here. And it's like, we're going to you know, single entry subdivisions. That goes back to my statement earlier. We need to demand better and higher quality development standards for our communities. We should not allow single entrance subdivisions. We should encourage that integrated network within our community and expand upon that. And I will say, I mean, I know we're looking at Aviation Boulevard. That'd be another east-west thoroughfare. You've got County Road 510. That is, you know, going to be taken over by the state. They're going to be widened. So that's going to be 512, 510. You got, you know, 60, Oslo. Those are those major thoroughfares. And then obviously 95. I mean, there's a lot of things helping us, but I get it. You know, when you have to wait 2 cycles, it's rough. Well, the worst place is, I'll tell you right now, my experience having, you know, Orlando, you know, Fort Lauderdale, Aviation Boulevard in the morning. I drive by those people and I want to stop and pray for them. I'm just telling you, I do.
So I may be particularly thinking about our Let's Talk Bureau, Three Corners. We know that that is a high congestion area. So I'm so glad to hear that you're thinking through all of this and just wanted to continue to emphasize, I understand the relativity of other cities. I'm from Chicago, lived in DC.
Oh, you definitely.
But it's just an important consideration because it's part of the reason we live here.
It's part of the quality of life.
Yes.
So that goes back to the growth, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial, is make sure we attract that, what we want, not settle for anything.
Thank you.
Verba,
Yes.
I'd like to just segue 2 comments on the John there. One, back to the business that was here. I'd like to meet them personally and work with them to make sure they stay here.
Yes.
And I do this as volunteer. We at the chamber, and the important thing about the chamber and our chamber members is we're trying to help this business community accomplish the goal of what you heard tonight. And one of the things we're doing, working with Chris and his team, and how you heard about fire and building not working together on various codes and stuff, is, and I'm coming from a background that I'm strictly a commercial realtor. We manage over 500,000 square feet of property in this county and 3 hotels and some other property. And I lease tens of thousands of square feet. And I have a big problem with tenants getting in. And we are working on a tenant expedited checklist before you sign the lease to work with the county, work with Dr. Pashan and others, so that if you have a person that you know that wants to bring a business here that will employ 5 people or more, maybe not initially, but that's their growth plan, we will expedite that at an expedited test to help them get through the permitting process and the lease process. I did move into that. That's been a very successful model working up throughout the state with the Commercial Realtors Association, CCIM, others of us in the industry, and Chris and John's team and our economic development director that we're bringing on, and their economic development manager. They're in the process of finding, intend to try to facilitate why we wanted to have this forum tonight, to let the public know that the chamber's here as a resource for you, the state college is here as a resource for you, John and Chris and his team are here for a resource. And if no one knows where to go and you have somebody that's frustrated, reach Andre at the chamber, it will get to us. Reach John at the county, he gives out his cell number. I don't know if you get it tonight, but I said it. and Dr. John. So just keep that in mind. And we're all here to do what we said we want to do tonight. We're just trying to have everybody come along with us, and we want all of your input. So as far as the traffic item, I want to make a comment about population again. We have 174,000 people in this town. The reason we all love it from June to October is I only saw 2 cars on the way here from A1A, is because 63,000 of them leave. And they're 6-month and 1-day people. So don't think that when our population swells, it's thousands and thousands of tourists. They have a voter's registration here, they live here, but they're gone right now. And sure enough, what slowly happens, I've watched this for over 30 years, soon there'll be 7 months, then there'll be 8 months. Then they'll be year round, then they'll sell the place and they'll go rent a place next to their grandkids for a couple months. So that's how our traffic is growing. It's not that we have this huge explosion of 65,000. We don't have the rooms for that in our hotels and houses and stuff. So again, back to think of that 30,000 people, 8,000 rooms. Think of turning light into quality, that sort of thing, when you're in your voting booths and so.
So just real quick from the county's perspective, I just want to say, following what Keith's talking about this program, the other thing that the county has, and we have an ombudsman. So the ombudsman will help, mom and pop, get through the maze of regulations and actually walk through and help, a small business owner that's trying to open up. So we do have one. We had there's about a 6-month vacancy. We have somebody else on board, Ashley. She's great. And that's there as a resource as well.
And if I may, I just want to add, Indian River State College also has a small business development center. We are the only state college where a small business development center is located. All of them are located at universities. So we're fortunate to have that. The services are absolutely free. We work with the SBA. Anyone who wants to start up a business, scale up a business, want to get government contracts, we have a very competent team that works with getting any kind of funding, bank loans, SBA loans, and that's a whole different arm that we have at Indian River State College, the Small Business Development, Florida Small Business Development Center. So if you need, you can contact me and I can get you in touch with the right people.
Go for it. It's your.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Erin Caldwell, but you can totally call me Meta. I'm the Senior Manager for Workforce Development for United Against Poverty. And I do want to piggyback on Dr. Pilley and Mark about job growth, workforce growth, because this is what I do. What I've noticed, especially here in Indian River County, you guys do a great job of having a presence inside the schools, but there is an invisible population, and that is the ALICE population, and that's who we mainly work with. And when I'm looking at people ages 25 to 35 who are the working poor that's looking for a better career for them and their families, whether it's a single parent household or a 2-parent household who just can't make it, who's not at self-sufficiency yet. How do you plan, or what's your strategy, not only to make these career pathways obtainable, but have a presence to that invisible population? Because you have a big presence in the school system, but outside of the school system, with that age bracket, the 25 to 35, what is your strategy to have that presence and to help them understand that these type of careers are obtainable?
That's actually a phenomenal question, and we're working towards it because what we're noticing, there are different populations that we're trying to get, and we've created a lot of different programming that we have that addresses, like we have the TRIO program that addresses a certain population. We have Project Stage that addresses a certain population, and so what we are looking at is we want to spread the word, and we want to make sure that we want to reach everybody, especially the ALICE population. And I know we've worked with you in the past with our Project Stage and with other programming.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to just point out that we have 23,000 students
Yeah.
at Indian River State College. Our Promise program does focus on high school graduates, but a majority of the students that attend Indian River State College are adults. They are over 25.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of people who are going back for reskilling, people who are getting degrees later in their career, nurses going from their RNs to their BSNs. And as Dr. Pilley mentioned, we have worked in certain populations, and we would love to work with United Against Poverty to find a way to better connect with
And there are different things that we've done, and I can give you a classic example of, one of the things I found out is some of our non-credit courses can be very, very expensive because they're not, you can't get financial aid or you can't get, so we have scholarships available. The state's gracious enough that's given us some funding and, like we started our own CDL program 2 years ago, and it's high skill, high wage job, and we, knock on wood, with the funding from the state, we've been able to give them 100% tuition towards that CDL program. So somebody who's coming in and getting a CDL driver's license for free, essentially. So we're looking at different areas. We're always willing to work, and eventually we'll connect and we'll figure out a way to get that, get more involved as well. Thank you for bringing that.
That was a great question. Real quick, Alice, I'll tell you, but I want to tell you what the acronym stands for, Alice, like Alice in Wonderland. Asset Limited, Income Challenge, and Employee. So you're good that you're sitting down. Almost 44% of all households in Indian River County are Alice households. So that means they're working really hard. They're trying to do all the right things, but that means that they don't quite earn enough to meet their basic needs. And so that's where these fine people come into play to try to help, and like Annabelle said, to get an education, etc. So, but when you think about that, we have about 72,000 households in the county, right? Just about 74,000. So think about that, half, 32 to 34,000 households don't earn enough to meet their basic needs. And that's the Alice population. So in Indian River County, our ratio is a little bit higher than in other counties, but that it is not unique to Indian River County. Is that a fair summary of Alice? Okay, who would like to ask the next question? Here we go.
I have direct follow-up.
Okay.
So direct follow-up, 32 to 34,000 households in this county are at that level, right? We can't reskill, retrain, and get them into new careers because that is a lot of jobs that need to be done, right? It's not that they're not working, they are working and they're doing jobs that must be done. So if we move them out, those jobs don't get done, the whole system breaks down. So really, it's not about reskilling people out of low-wage jobs, it's about making the American dream achievable for everyone and making life affordable for everyone at every level of our economic system. And that goes into a slightly broader topic, right? Building single-family homes, there's a minimum cost on that. Moving forward, we're not going to see any less than 250,000, right? That's not going to happen. If we have higher density, if we have mixed use where we can get additional tax revenue through shops that are on the ground floor of the 4-story building, where we've got apartments going up, which is how a lot of more affluent neighborhoods around the country operate these days. That would diversify our income as a county. It would reduce the cost for maintaining these households. It would reduce the cost for building these individual units, and it would make everything more attainable for people who are able to work and live and work in the same broad area without necessitating buying an automobile and driving 30 minutes to and from work, right? Higher density is a solution for most of what we've talked about tonight. I'd love to know your opinions on bringing that density up.
You're higher. But
I want to explain density in a simple method that I think everyone can understand. The Hampton Inn that is next to the Publix on Miracle Mile has 90 rooms in it. I was able to put it on 2.5 acres. It's 49 feet, 6 inches high, but with a 50-foot roof. You're wondering how that. Although to hide the stuff on the roof, you are allowed to go 10 to 15 feet above that to hide the mechanicals. But in that case, we did. But the bank building next door is actually about 61 feet. So first thing I want you to do is put that in perspective if you're looking at the mall, if you're looking at anywhere else. Let's take one of these blighted packing houses along US 1 that's zoned commercial. In the city of Vero Beach, depending on where you are, the 12 units of residential per acre is the case. There are some areas where you can build 15 units.
Sure.
In my example, just to give you what density is, 2.5 acres, you could build a little over 24 units, maybe 30 units if you put the stormwater underground. That's 90 units at that hotel. You can build one very nice 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom and studio at 43 units, which is half the hotel rooms, which is a bedroom, a kitchen, a 2-bedroom, etc., on that same footprint. But you can't do it because of zoning and permitting and everything that the 64% went for. So I have many things up here. If anyone wanted to stand, I could put them out. As a matter of fact, I'll have Irene distributed. Repurposing broken malls. We don't need to go plow down another 50 acres when Daytona has already put 250 units on their exact same mall built by the same mall developer 5 years after our mall was built. They're all over the country. So what I want everybody to think about is, this is an organic growth. No one's going to come in here and build 1,000 units tomorrow. Unless you're a Devasta that you're going to go buy a couple thousand acres and build all those homes again and all that traffic and all those roads. These are people that can walk, bike, move. Everything that everybody is saying up here tonight are tools that are available, but the lacking is exactly what Danny said. All the kids are out of town because it's Vero Beach. It's closed at 10. They got no place to walk down to the beach, no place to hang with their friends, no place to do anything. We're talking about the survival rate of our youth in this workforce housing. And yes, I appreciate Alice, and I'm sorry, but we've got so many challenges to get there. And it's simply because we spent decades of no growth. We were a farming community for 50 years, almost 100 years, really. All we had, I don't know how many people remember that Indian River Boulevard wasn't even there, and those were all citrus groves. Just so you know, when I got here, Indian River Boulevard didn't even end there. It was a 2-lane road through a bunch of beautiful smelling orange blossom groves. That's what you're going to continue to get. So you can look at that ocean out there and that beautiful sea of blue. And you can look that way to that beautiful sea of houses. Unless you want to change a little bit of density in our blighted areas up and down US 1, in our Sebastian, in our Fellsmere, and in our downtown. Every house on this island has an oak tree. My favorite statement to the mayor. So the island's built out. You know what you got. Let's say what we are losing.
Well, a lot
That's
of
what I
it
say about density.
a lot of it is to be informed, right? And for us to learn the proper definition of density rather than the first thing that comes to mind. And so I think that's why, again, thanks to Irene and Jonathan, this is a great forum, so we can have a conversation in John Moses' living room and discuss this in a nice civil manner. So what I'd like to do is, in the interest of time, because Lori, the boss, is gonna come and get the big hook off, I know.
Already here.
Oh, she's already here. So what I'd like to do is, I have one more question. I'm sorry, sir.
There was a lady in the middle of it. I can't remember her name, but she raised her hand.
Barbara.
Yes, Barbara, may I come to you last? I'll have Linda ask the second to last question. Linda is one of our city council members, vice mayor. Oh, that's really important. I'm sorry. Our vice mayor, can you please stand up? This is, Linda is in charge of vice. Okay, that's what she said. So, please.
So, first of all, let me say to the gentleman that just spoke about density, no one is sadder that our referendum failed than I am, because it would be so much better to have infill in the downtown area than sprawling subdivisions
Yes.
outside of our city. You keep that happen again in another referendum. I don't know how to do that right now, but I'm in. But I want to tie all of these three topics together with, but I want to talk about the crossover between economic development and tourism that I feel like maybe needs to happen a little bit more. To attract more young people, talking about what Danny said about attracting Piper employees to this area. It's about the cost of housing, but it's also about, as you mentioned, it's about people wanting to live here and there being attractions that want to draw them to the area. And that's why our kids leave also. It's not just about housing. They leave because there's nothing to do. So to me, there's economic development where we try to attract large businesses to the area, and that's great. But there's also tourism development where we have a tourism development committee that gives money to people that put heads in beds for tourists, and that's also great. But a thriving downtown solves so many problems for everybody. It solves part of the Alice problem because a lot of my employees, I own a restaurant, a lot of my employees are those Alice people, and we do our best to lift them up as much as we can. And the cost of housing is a problem. But if we had a more thriving downtown with more businesses, brick and mortar, that attracted tourism to our area, then Danny's problem is solved because more people want to work here. And the Alice problem is solved because I can pay my humans more. And then they are lifted up doing the same jobs that, as you mentioned, someone has to do. So I feel like, and I ask all of you this, is there a way that we can put our heads together and figure out not only to attract businesses to our downtown, to make it more vibrant, to attract tourism, to make people want to live here that are young people, and to also maybe provide some housing in this downtown area that could be more affordable for our young people. And I feel like this is an area that maybe isn't so much being addressed. Like, sure, Morgan's trying to do it, and we're all there, like, fighting the good fight. But how is it that y'all could put your heads together? Because you guys are so much smarter than little old me, owns a restaurant or two. How is it that we can make it easier for maybe even local people to open their dream business downtown, which will impact tourists coming to our downtown to hang out, and will also make it a livelier area that, Danny, your employees want to move here because it's got a cool downtown. I mean, this is the key to everything that we've been talking about tonight, in a way. I mean, obviously there's a lot of keys, there's a lot of locks, but a more vibrant downtown is addressing every single problem that everyone's brought up today. So how do you guys help the city and United Against Poverty and Keith Kite, who wants to develop stuff, and Danny, who wants employees to move here? How do we get together and do that thing? Because I'm here for that. And I just want to ask you guys to maybe we can work together.
I'll lead it off. And what I would say is, as a fan of cities who's traveled, there's a lot of cities in Florida. And the most successful cities with very vibrant downtowns have a community redevelopment agency.
Correct.
And that's where you literally have the community, the area that's defined, reinvesting a portion of the taxes back into the community, and then
So that's kind of the thing that the county would have to agree to for the city. So are you telling me right now that you support Because, oh, I'm here to hear that one.
I do, you know, I know, and there's many county managers out there like, no, I'm tired. Listen, I speak city. You know, and I can tell you, a community redevelopment agency is a viable economic development tool to rehabilitate, redevelop, re-incentivize, and bring businesses back into downtown and to so I agree with that. And I would be an advocate for it. And I've even talked about it with Monty and with Commissioner Moss and I as well. So I do believe that is a viable economic development tool. The City of Sebastian has one. The City of Fellsmere has one. And I think it's a great tool to reinvest in that area. And it is a part, and so when I use that term, and I'll say the same thing I used to say to the city manager. It's a partnership. The county's partnering with the city to invest money in an area that has been deemed it's less than favorable. They call it slum and blighted, but the point being is it's in partnership. So I would support that as an administrator.
So. I'll just wait for Linda, I just want to get John and Linda.
Now, I support it. Obviously, there's a commission, but
Yeah.
no, but I say that, but my point is I don't believe that the commission is anti-redevelopment agency. I have not seen that tenor where I've seen that, that sentiment as you've seen in other communities.
Before,
So I think it is seen as a partnership.
yeah, before we go to our last question, just curious, so you're for it.
Yes.
It sounds reasonable. So realistically, how long would that now take to actually get off the ground and become a real thing?
So I think the bill failed this year. So if it was going to happen, it needs to happen soon. So there's a couple of things that need to happen. One, I think the city, my recollection is the city has about the resolution declaring the need, a finding of necessity. They have to do a study, to determine, that there's certain statutory, chapter 163 of the Community Redevelopment Act that goes back to 1969. And it just, there's specific things that you have to look at and study. And you have to demonstrate that. And once you demonstrate those blight or those other conditions that would lead to blight, then you adopt a redevelopment plan. And then after that, there's an agreement between where basically they establish what you call a tax increment finance district or a redevelopment trust fund, where the property values are frozen. In other words, so whatever the city was getting prior to the date established, they continue to receive that tax revenue. Whatever the county was getting, they continue to receive that tax revenue. All the new revenue growth then goes to fund the redevelopment agency. So that's where I say it's literally a city and the county partnering on an area because, hey, listen, and I used to say this as a city manager, but I believe it both ways. City residents are county residents, and county residents, we have an interest here too. We want to see Vero Beach and downtown thrive and succeed as well.
We're here. So how long is that? You're welcome. It sounds like a lot of things, 2 years, 3 years?
No, I don't think it's that long.
Okay.
If they were serious about it, and I certainly would offer my expertise, and provide. I don't believe. Again, I think the county commission. Obviously I can't speak for them, but I would advocate for it. I can tell you that. But I think you can get it done in 9 months or so. But you need to do it soon because the problem is the state is looking at these agencies because you have some bad faith actors. And one of the things that the legislature is great at doing, taking a bad faith actor and apply a one size fits all policy. And this is an issue that's very important to me. And I've been an advocate on CRAs long before this. I've managed 3 of them. So I know what they can do for a community. And it benefits both the residents within the city and it benefits the county as a whole. I think if we put our minds together, we committed to doing it, we can get it done.
So when do you recommend we get started?
I'm willing to have a meeting, and talk to the city whenever they want.
Okay.
I brought it up before.
So,
Everybody talk to their county commissioners.
there you go. because it sounds like you rattled off the formula, which is great. And by the way, this is professionally videotaped, and there'll actually be a replay of this, and it will land in your inbox thanks to the magic of technology, right, Amina? Yeah, okay.
And I knew that when I was making this. So here.
So, last question.
First of all, Vera, the expanse of your knowledge is impressive.
Unbelievable. Did you hear me? The expanse of your knowledge is impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So county education chamber, Keith, all of you have mentioned great services that you provide to support recruitment, job development, et cetera. It would be very, very helpful if this were all written up in a document, what you each provide in one document, so that it can be used for recruitment and distribution as people are looking for people to employ.
So we.
And as young people are considering becoming entrepreneurs.
That's an excellent point, because they do their research as
Yeah.
well. And so what I would tell you is we work for the chamber. The chamber is the county's formal economic development organization by our ordinance. We have a relationship. We are hiring an economic development manager, and they have an economic development person. But one of the things that the county has invested, and I have heard once or twice that consultants are not, favored, but I can tell you that the money spent on this study can, Dr. Pilley talked about the ROI, and I don't know what the ROI would be, but I tell you, the $125,000 that we're spending on this study will reap its benefits over and over, because we are developing an economic development strategic action plan that we will work with our economic development committee and with the chamber to implement that plan. And that's the key. I mean, I'm going to say, unfortunately, the county did it back in 2015. And I'm not, for whatever reason, a lot of it didn't get implemented. But we are committed, and we've had some really great meetings with stakeholders, with individuals, the town hall meetings, to get that community input, again, to help us define as a group what we want as a county, to look like what businesses we should be attracting, what are the challenges that we need to overcome, and how have others done it? So you're right, we are going to have a plan. We expect that, and we expect to adopt it somewhere around September time. But Chris, when is the draft expected to come out?
It's supposed to be end of September for the draft, and then it should be October for adoption.
Yeah. So we're expecting in the fall to have an actual physical document that says that you can hold us, the county, the chamber, the economic development committee accountable to.
So I'm way past the Lori is going.
Yeah.
We promised for a hard stop at 7:00. Tell no one, we're over this by just 16, 17 minutes. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much for your experience.
Thank you.
I really want to be welcome back at a later time. We've learned so much. So on behalf of Let's Talk Bureau and Bureau Minutes, thank you so much for joining us tonight.